Hello and welcome to the Learning Reading Hub. This channel is all about learning to read, so if you're interested in this topic, consider subscribing. We create weekly content full of valuable resources and information. Today we're going to be talking about apps for learning to read. If you have been following the channel for a while, you might note that I'm not very fond of apps for learning to read. However, I must say that after 3 months in lockdown right now, homeschooling my older daughter and with a toddler around the place, I decided to give apps a go again. At least try to make the screen time or technology time, which has been longer than usual, as educational as possible. And I have discovered some apps that are actually pretty good and worth giving them a try. However, bear in mind that none of these apps, no app in general, will magically teach your child to read. They have their place, they can be very useful, but they are only complementary tools to teaching instruction. I have not been paid or sponsored by any of the companies or the apps that I'm going to talk about in this video. But the links on the description might be affiliate links, meaning that I can get a small commission if you buy from them. This helps keep the information on the channel free and available to everyone. And now, without further ado, let's get started. App number 1. Teach Your Monster to Read. Teach Your Monster to Read is a great game based on phonics principles. It is really helpful for complementing phonics instruction. This game follows the recommended curriculum, phonics curriculum, across the schools in England and Wales, which is a systematic synthetic phonics curriculum. It is free to use on a PC, but if you prefer to use the app version, which is available both for iPhone and Android, it is a paid app. First of all, on the Teach Your Monster to Read app, you create your monster, and then he goes through a series of tests and tasks in order to teach him to read. Along the way, you get rewards for your accomplishments or for the monster accomplishments. These tests are all, of course, around letters and letter sounds. For example, on this part, you are asked to tap on the letters that make the S sound.
To free the villager, tap on all the buttons that make the sound S.
It is sequential in the order that sounds are introduced in the game. At our home, we found especially useful the mini-games part, where you pick and practice around a specific sound. It was a fun way to go over on a specific sound that you want to practice. For instance, you could pick to practice the sh sound or the voice the sound, as in the first sound of the word they, as in this example. We select the grapheme phoneme correspondence that we want to practice and we're ready to go.
Put all the ducks in the shh pond.
I also liked the CITES game. By the way, one thing to keep in mind is that the voice and the sounds are in British English. That might be something that is great in your case, or it might be something that you don't want because it's not the English that you speak at home. Just wanted to make you aware. This game was very appropriate for my daughter's age, who is 6 at the moment, and it was very much in line with her level of phonics and what she's actually learning. App number 2, Homer. I was really curious and excited about this app because it is actually not a game, but a program in itself that, according to the creators of the app, follows an explicit, systematic, sequential curriculum. This is something that I like because research and personal experience really shows that this is the most effective method for teaching children to read. I will clarify the terms though, because it is full of so many big words, but it is really simple to understand really. Explicit means that the teacher, in this case the app, will teach sound and letter correspondences to children in a direct manner. as opposed to non-explicit, which relies on the student's ability to work out the relationships between sounds and letters through repeated exposure. Systematic, meaning that it is a planned approach, and sequential, meaning that it follows an order. So, the idea is that the app will take children into a set path that starts with the introduction of a letter sound and its letter name and graphic representation, and moves towards reading and spelling words with that sound in conjunction with other sounds that the child has already mastered. The app also places a lot of importance on phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate the individual sounds in words. For instance, the word cat is formed by the individual sounds k, a, t. Okay, so in theory, the foundations of the app seemed great, but did it live up to the promises, to the expectations I had? Well, yes and no. I found that the path that it set for my older daughter was a little bit too basic for her level. The principles were right, the activities focused as promised on letter names and letter sounds. She had lots of opportunities to develop phonemic awareness, for blending sounds into words, to practice spelling, to practice sight words, but the materials on her reading path were not challenging enough for her. So, what did I do? Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, I also have a toddler. She knows some letter names and sounds, but really very few. I am aware I haven't been working with her enough on this, I haven't been consistent enough, and in fact setting time aside to consistently sit with her, work on letter names and sounds has been on my to-do list for a while. But you know how it's like, how busy it gets. Besides, I have been trying to work out the right way to do this with her because she still has very little attention span. It really has to be in a way that is fun and engaging for her. So I thought maybe this app can help me with that first initial step of teaching letter names and letter sounds at the same time, with helping her develop phonemic awareness. So I created a second profile. It allows up to 4 different profiles on the same account. For a 3-year-old in this case, that only knew a few letters and waited for Homer to see what path came up with. So the path this time was appropriate for her level. I like how much emphasis it was putting on the sounds. Children are not only presented with this is the letter A, but this is the letter A and it makes the A sound. And now let's practice. For instance, an activity could be, after being introduced to that sound, to tap on the words that contain that specific sound. And another activity could be to repeat the A sound after the cute red monkey that actually gives the instruction on the app. Let's have a look at a couple of examples so you can have a much better understanding of what I mean. This activity is all about training our ears to hear and learning about sounds and letter correspondences.
The sound ah. Terrific. Ah. Excellent. Ah. Now let's practice the sound eh. The sound bravo. Eh. Wow, wow, wow. Eh. It's your turn to say these sounds. Ah, eh. Tap the green button to record.
Alligator, iguana.
This activity is about learning to spell by listening to the sounds.
Squiggly ears, cheers! You spelled sip. Pad. Bravo! You spelled pad. Jumping jungles. You worked so hard. Bam!
My toddler is still using the app on a consistent basis. She likes it, she is using it almost daily, and she asks for it. She says to me, "Can I have my letters class?" And I have noticed she's definitely learning about letters and sounds. She also enjoys the other parts of the app. They have dozens of stories, creativity activities, and educational games. She even loves the maths part. Yes, there is a maths part as well. These other parts, as the name says, are games and stories, but they are educational. For instance, I was watching one story with her, and it was all about learning about the concept of dividing things equally. This app, as opposed to the previous one, uses American English. Again, that might be something that you like, that you appreciate, that you don't mind, or even something you don't want. In our case, it's not the accent we're most used to in our environment, but my kids are super used to it from watching cartoons and TV, so it wasn't confusing for them. They didn't mind at all. I like that the app has a 30-day free trial, so you can actually see what it's all about and check if the app is actually the right choice for your child. After that, I think it's $9.99 a month. At the time I'm doing this review, of course, and if you pay for a year, I think they are running a discount again at the time I'm doing this review. So if you have a young child that needs to learn about letter names and sounds and develop phonemic awareness, Homer could be a very useful tool to set up the right foundations that he needs or she needs to become a fluent reader. Of course, that should be done in combination to working with him or with her. But you won't need to set so much time aside and do all the hard work yourself. If you're interested in trying it out, you can find the link on the video description for the 30-day free trial that they offer. App number 3, Readability Tutor. Readability Tutor is quite an extraordinary app actually. I don't think I've seen any other app that is able to do what this app does. I believe it is quite new as well, so there are a few things here and there that could be perfected, such as the fact that it's not available in many regions, at least at the time I'm doing this review. So, what does it do? It basically helps busy parents that would love to sit for longer with their children to read to do the job for them. How does it do it? The app uses artificial intelligence to detect the words that your child is reading, and if they're not right, it corrects the child's mistakes in the same way you would correct your child if you were reading with him or with her. And at the end of the book, it also asks your child some comprehension questions. This is a brief example of my child, who is 6 years old at the moment, using the app.
Hello, sun. Big and bright. You fill the day with your bright light. Hello, grass, soft and green. You give us all a plant to play. What?
Place.
Place to play. Place to play. I'm done. Hello, sky. Broad. blue. You fill the sky with the color blue.
Hello. I cannot hear you. Are you still there?
Yes. Hello, moon. Up in the
Dark. Dark. I cannot hear you. Are you still there?
dark. You make the night not so dark.
Besides, if your child does not know the meaning of a word, he or she can press on any word while reading to learn about its pronunciation, about its meaning, and add it to his or her vocabulary list. A couple more things about the app. You can create up to 3 profiles on the same account. You give details about your child's age and the reading level that your child has, and the app does quite a good job at putting together a selection of books that is appropriate for his or her reading level. This is really important. I have talked about this before on the channel, how you should be careful about the books you choose and how they should be appropriate for his or her level. There is also a parents area on your account where you can check how your child is doing. How accurate is his or her reading? How many minutes did he spend reading on a specific day, on a specific week? What speed is he reading at? Was he able to complete the comprehension questions? Very useful information, very complete reports on your child's progress that can really help you realize if your child is going in the right direction with his or her reading. However, just to be a little bit fussy here, I would love for the app to also tell me what specific mistakes my child had. Of course, I do not suggest that you should outsource all of the reading time with your child to this app. There is nothing that compares to reading with your child, and I'm not only talking about the learning side of it, I'm also talking about the quality time that you spend when you're reading with your child. But sometimes life's busy. You have a million things to do and you only have a little bit of time to sit with your child, maybe only to read one book. So, especially if you have a beginner child or a struggling reader that needs someone by his or her side, why limit his or her reading time? Regarding the price, the app at the time I'm doing this review offers a 7 days free trial and then is $99.95 per month. App number 4, Epic. I think of Epic as a Netflix of books for children. Quite cool, right? Who wouldn't like that? They have an online library with over 40,000 books that are appropriate for children between 2 to 12 years old. They cover all tastes and preferences, fiction, non-fiction, books about animals, about the ocean, about unicorns, about feelings. You get the idea, about everything. They have a read aloud part and also a read to me part, which I found was really useful to keep my 6-year-old engaged. And also great when the adult is not available to read more challenging books. The read to me part highlights each word as it reads to you, so that way your child is also practicing his or her reading at the same time. This is the same as if you were reading to your child and pointing with your finger to each of the words that you're reading, which is, by the way, a very good thing to do. This is an example of a read to me part.
My favorite pets
This
are
is
cats.
a read to me
Would you like to
sample
learn
from
about
the
them?
Epic app.
House cats live with people. Some cats live inside the house with their owners. Some cats live outside. Cats can see very well at night. They see much better than humans. Do you remember? Which of these animals is a cat? A, B, or C? Check and see if you're right at the end of this book.
The books also have reading comprehension questions, so that is another tick on the box. They have a library of videos as well, and also the app has content in other languages, including Spanish, Chinese, and French. In our case, being a bilingual family with Spanish, that is a big plus. As a parent, you can also assign books to your child that you think your child is gonna enjoy. With the lockdown, we haven't been able to go to the library, so this has been a useful tool for us. They have a basic plan which is for free. You can find links on the video description. However, to be honest, the basic plan is very limited. You can only read one book a day. You cannot do offline reading, and you are limited to one profile. App number 5, Khan Academy Kids. Strictly speaking, Khan Academy Kids is not a reading app. It is a whole curriculum that includes other subjects, such as maths or even logic. Why do I include it if it's not about reading? Well, because it offers so much value for free that I thought it was worth mentioning on this video. My daughter really enjoys it, and she has been learning lots thanks to this app. She surprises me sometimes with some facts that she learns from the books that they have on the library. The books tend to be very educational, and they also have comprehension questions at the end, so that's great. I've done some literacy activities with her, and they are very educational and very much in line with her level. It is not 100% a systematic synthetic phonics program, but the approach to teaching reading is pretty good, tending to use the phonics approach. For instance, take a look at these two examples.
Great!
This activity is about learning to spell and recognizing
This is the
frequent
word
words.
had. It is spelled H-A-D. Tap the word had. In the sentence, Cody had a map.
This is an example of a book you can find on the library. Unfortunately, the audio was not recorded. This app, as I said, is a free app. It has no ads, which is something I really appreciate and find quite remarkable for a free app. And I leave links to this app and the rest of the apps I've mentioned and talked about on the video description. See you on the next video, and if you found this one helpful, please hit the like button to support the channel.